Hi, everyone. Hello. If you want to say anything, please put it in the chat down the side. You're welcome to chat. Hi, Jerry. I didn't know if you were coming, my love. Are you all right? Hang on. Can I make you a co-host? How do you feel about that? Yeah? Done. Brilliant. I think you're done now. Are you done? You can.
Yeah, I'm done now. I had planned to be away. Plans changed. I'm here.
Hello.
I like your hair, Deb.
It's a bit bright, isn't it? It's the fuck, I put a lot of orange on it and it will be
Is that the name of the name of the shade?
Yeah, fuck, that's orange is the name. It's not really, but I'm going with it'll be peach by tomorrow when I go to a cheerleading competition in St Albans. So, you know, that's what I'm going with. That'll do for now. Right, just let everybody come in. If you want to write anything, please write down the side. You can see the chat on the side. Feel free to do that. Say hi, write whatever you want. Please don't write about anyone else here. Please don't make a pass at anybody here. Please don't comment on whether, you know, Jerry's got the sexiest t-shirt on the planet on, or whether my tits are half out or not. Let's comment on people, please. And no private messaging to other people either. If you want to speak to somebody and they say, hey, yeah, this is my fet life, that's a little bit different, but please, this isn't a pickup thing. Hello, everybody. So Explorer says, hello, good evening. Dreamer Swanigan says hello. And Jeannie says, greetings from Florida, USA. I've just come back from Florida, actually. I was there for Cheerleading Worlds and Summit. Jeffrey Turner says, coming to you from Anchorage, Alaska. Wow. Hello, everyone. Really nice to see you all. So the rules of the room are be polite, be respectful, don't say anything you wouldn't say in person, no wanking. I really don't care what your bits are like. I'm sure they're wonderful, but please, none of us want to see them. I do make people unable to unmute themselves. If you've got a question, you write it down the side. I will answer it as soon as I can. I don't have any scene counselor today. Unfortunately, she's on a train traveling back. But we spoke about this a little bit anyway. We saw each other because she was down here for a convention. So she was local recently. Okay, so we're talking about skills for DOMs, subs, and switches, which kind of everybody, and with that means tops and bottoms and everything else as well. Opal Fruit says, howdy. And Carap69 Carapo says, hello, everyone. Hello. Nice to see you all. So when we're talking about skills, what do you imagine I'm going to say today? What do you imagine that I'm going to say, hey, listen, we should be covering this? Hello, Ropes. Hello, all. Hello. Communication. Yeah, absolutely. Can be, certainly. What else would you imagine that skills have? Because I always get quite surprised that when I'm running a workshop, let's say on the basics, like Kink 101 or negotiation skills or psychology of kink or how to look after someone, all of these different things, consent even, responsibility, as people are saying. Thank you, Karis and Jeannie. It's really interesting to me that somebody would rather go to a flogging workshop. And look, I get it. I really get that we want to learn how to do the exciting stuff. Enforcing boundaries, says James. Yeah, and it's okay to not know and you never stop learning. Agreed. There is no such thing as an expert and there's no right or wrong way, but we are told that quite a lot, aren't we? Especially by people who are teaching on the scene. Cosmic wrote something the other day about something and I said, I'm a bit fed up with it. I think there are a lot of people teaching who really shouldn't be teaching, who use it as in a position of abuse, of power, of different things. So, okay, so let's go. What I've done is I've thought about this and I want to go through skills needed in different sections, if that's okay with everybody. And then if you've got any questions as we go, just type them down the side. Ask me anything you want. If I know the answer, I'll tell you. If not, I'll make it up. That's a joke, by the way. Leadership. And what that means, responsibility and accountability. So let's go through little bits. I think one of the first things you've got to learn is, and by the way, this isn't in any preferential order, right? So some of the things you've got to learn is terminology. So what are you talking about when you're talking about it? Do you know what a dumb, that says a lot what I think about DOMs. Sorry, DOMs. That's so bad, isn't it? Psychological slip there. Freud would have a field day with DOMs. Right, so do you know what a dumb dom is, or a dim dom? So It's not you. So do you know what a dom is, what a sub is, what a switch is, what a top is, what a bottom is, what a daddy is, what a DDLG relationship is, what poly is? Try and get involved. I think one of the things I'm going to say to everybody is read, listen, watch, and attend. They're really important skills. Read stuff that people write. Look, you can also disagree with it. You can think, no, I'm going to hold that one. I saw somebody moaning about a consent workshop they'd been to recently, run by quite, I don't know who it was, but they teach consent everywhere. And they'd said this isn't okay because they had apparently what this person said who was running the workshop was saying that a maybe is often a yes. You just need to work out what they need to help with on the yes. Like a maybe is never a yes. That is, a maybe is, I'd like more information, I don't know. And a maybe is, can we talk more about that? And until it's a yes, we see a maybe as a no. That's it. There are no two ways about that. So, you know, there are a lot of people teaching out there who are exceptionally dangerous as well. However, read, listen, watch, and attend, and think about word of mouth. If somebody says, look, they're really good and they're quite a nice person, they probably are really good and they're quite nice to listen to. However, bear in mind that people can fool people. So keep your wits about you, very much so. Enthusiastic consent, a hell yes, exactly. And I'm going to go on to that in a little bit as well. So I also think one of the other skills you need to understand is the law. Understand that what you are doing on some level is probably illegal. If you leave more than a trifling or transient mark on another human being, you are technically breaking the law in the UK, most states in the US and other places. Not everywhere all the time. And that gets worse if we are queer or come under anything else in other countries. So be aware of the law. You cannot consent to violence against you. So if you say, no, it's fine that they hit me, it's fine that I've got bruises, it's fine that I've got cane marks, it's fine that I'm bleeding, it's fine that they pierced me, all you're doing is providing evidence to that situation to say they did hurt me. You are statistically less likely to have any form of problems if you're in a heterosexual marriage when it comes to consent and the law, because we all know they're the best sort of marriage to have. That was sarcasm, by the way, before we go anywhere else. And I think we have to be very aware. So understand a little bit about the law about where you are. Understand what your rights are. Understand that the things you can say and not say. So be aware. So read, listen, watch, attend, understand terminology, but also understand the law. Another thing to be aware of, there is no one true right way. We get a lot of people who try and enthusiastically tell people, especially if they're new, that this is the right way, this is the only way. And we also then use manipulation and coercion alongside that. And we start to hear things like a good sub would, a good dominant would, a proper slave would, the right sort of person would, or we get even worse into things, if you loved me, you would. No, that's coercion, manipulation, and many other things. So have a think about that. Also, understand the difference between the old guard and the new guard and leather families, and understand those differences, because a lot of words and phrases that are used on the scene and around and in books are related to certain groups of people in certain ways. You've got an old guard that says, no, these are all the rules. You've got a newer guard. I fell foul of this the other day. It's really interesting. Be aware of your stuff. One of my clients was talking about, oh yeah, I was at a thing and I saw this person had a green hanky. So we've got the old queer handkerchief system in BDSM. And I said, oh, I didn't know you were into sort of like prostitution, sex work, sex for money. Like really, because that's what that used to be about, although I don't like the word prostitution anymore. It's not right, but it was more about letting someone out or selling them in some way, shape or form. And they looked at me like I was fucking nuts and said, no, they were a daddy. And I went, oh, is green daddy? Well, it turns out there is a shade of green that is daddy now. And I was completely in, oh, I thought that was some kind of sex work money to be, you know, pimped out in your own way. And I was like, oh, fuck, I got that completely wrong. And when I looked it up, yeah, it is. There is a whole new set of flags or a whole new set of handkerchiefs that people are using. They're still using all the old ones, but they're using different shades of different things to say different things. So I was like, oh, fuck, I got that completely wrong. I wasn't wrong. I was just stuck in something of old. But again, so be aware of what's happening now and what's going on around. So leather families, old guard, new guard, interesting. Rope said, be aware of your own bias. Be aware of your own knowledge. It's really difficult to be aware of your own bias, really difficult. So if somebody gives you some feedback and says, I think you are, I look for the truth in it, unless of course they are not somebody you appreciate or respect. Be interested maybe in where you came from and why. Are you born this way? Are you made this way? That is a major debate. Lots more research is starting to prove, especially by people like Richard Sprott, who really looks into who we are as human beings. A lot more research is now starting to prove that we are born this way and something may or may not trigger us, but it's within us. Understand that if you're going to get into these relationships, are you interested in kink, fetish, play, or some form of authority transference or some kind of power exchange? What do all of those things mean differently? And most of all, when I'm saying all of this, please work out what they mean to you and then be aware of your bias. When somebody else says, hey, I'm really into authority transference, don't go, oh, cool, so am I. Ask the question, what do those words mean to you? When a lot of people come into my therapy room as somebody who's been kinky for 40 plus years and teaches a lot of this and works with this every single day, I still say, what does that mean? Because I have to be really careful that my bias doesn't get in the way of what we are trying to communicate there and then. So there are differences between kink, fetish, what we class as play, and what we look at with authority transference or power exchange. So with an authority transference and power exchange, you're going to get an exchange. It's not really, it's a giving away of some kind of authority or power where one takes it and one gives it. What's the responsibility for each person in that? What does it look like? Be curious about that. Does this person have their stuff together? Does this person have their stuff together? We're going to come on to that in a minute as well. Is there a difference for you lot between kink and fetish? Does anyone know what the difference is? What are we into? What does it mean? I've got a fetish about this. And then also be aware, I looked it up once. I really like that. Fuck it, I looked it up once. It was then. I'm not doing it now. Screw that. But you meet a lot of people who are, for you, there's a big difference. In what way, Jerry?
Oh God, I think fetish is focused on a specific thing that almost you can't get excited without it, whether it's leather or rubber or boots or big breasts or whatever. I think kink is a much white t-shirts, whatever. Yeah.
So you're right. So a fetish, it's interesting that people say, oh my God, I've got a real fetish for chocolate. You haven't, unless that's the thing that makes you aroused or come. So yes, Lady Loki. So if we think about this, a fetish is a thing that you need in order to feel arousal or to achieve orgasm or sexual interest. I need you to wear that silk blouse, otherwise I'm not going to get a hard on. I need you to wear your suit, otherwise I'm not going to get wet. I need you to put the high heels on, otherwise I'm not going to whatever. So it's an absolute dependency. And so that's what a fetish is about. And they often start at quite a young age. They're often connected to sexual arousal in some way at the same time. Maybe you've got a wasp sting at the same time as having a first erection, or something really got you going on the TV that you were watching, or some kind of YouTube channel more nowadays. At the same time, you were like, oh, that makes me tingle. That's quite nice. So that's more what that's about. Whereas a kink is, oh, I kind of like that. I want to do that. I love that. That could be fun. Let's have a go at that. Play is clearly, what do we classify as play? And does play come with sex, and does sex come with play? Can CNC be a fetish? If it could be that in order to come, if you need total power over somebody, yes, it could be. I cannot come without having complete and utter power over you. I mean, it can go too far, your life, your wellness, everything else as well. So consensual non-consent can be because I need violence, or I need aggression, or I need force, or I need some kind of pressure in order for me to go there. So yes, it can be a fetish. It is often a kink. So you can argue that not all fetish, you can argue that all fetishes may be some kind of kink, but not all kinks are a fetish. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Yeah, good. And that's why I call myself a fetishist, because you need some of those things in order to feel aroused. But I accept people calling me a kinkster because it's easier. I find the word kinkster not quite serious enough for me for the way I take authority transference. It is my thing. That's what I want. That's what I need. And that is the thing that turns me on. And in fact, the thing that turns me on most is being a cut queen. So again, that's a need. I could argue that being a cut queen is a fetish. I'm way more likely to orgasm quicker and easier if I'm thinking of those scenarios than anything else. But I'm not quite a fetishist because I can orgasm from other things and feel aroused from other things. That's the difference, if that makes sense. Please be aware of things like the whole umbrella of ethical non-monogamy. Unpopular opinion coming up. Just because you're poly or just because you're monogamous doesn't mean you're better than the other person. There isn't one that's right. There isn't one that's enlightened. There isn't one that is the holy grail and the only way. Your way is absolutely good enough and absolutely okay. We have a lot of people trying to tell people what they should do nowadays. You should be poly, you should be monogamous. Nah, fuck that. I just had a private question. Does the thought of being a cut queen turn you on, or only when it is happening in reality? The thought does. So it's, for me, it's the thought. I can imagine scenarios in my head and I can feel really turned on by that. That's why I don't always need the person who's with me to actually cut queen me, as long as we talk about it and it's the thought. So, and actually you can have a lot of fighting in your head when it does happen in reality. Oh my God, I don't feel so good about that. Lady Loki said, that is so fucking stupid. It gets me angry just hearing it. God damn, about telling others what's best. Yes. And everybody is agreeing with you because it isn't right. There isn't one right way. There isn't one true way. If you prefer it, that's fucking awesome. And I'm thrilled for you. But understand that the umbrella of ethical non-monogamy has a myriad of terms, of phrases, of different things that people use. It doesn't matter what phrase you use. It matters that somebody you are with agrees with your meaning of that phrase. So again, understand what it means to you. When I'm working with couples or polycules, they might say something like, well, you know, a closed triad. And I might say, what does a closed triad mean to you? Oh, it means this. And they might say that this person who's on the top, like if we've got a power exchange or an authority transference relationship as well, that person's in charge, only sleeps with these two, but these two don't sleep together. Or they might say, no, a closed triad is where these two do. And you've got different things going on. That's the point. It's down to individual interpretation, no matter what phrases we use. So we need to understand ourselves. That's really important as well. Get out, start to go to clubs, go to munches, go to workshops, go to fairs, go to different things. I get annoyed a little bit, I've got to be honest, where I can only go to a club where I dress up. It isn't my kink. It isn't my thing. I don't want to have to prove myself. I want to go in my Laura Ashley dress. And there seems to be this fallacy that, yeah, but if we make the effort to make you dress, it shows that you're really into this. And it shows that you take this more seriously and you'll respect people. Then why do we have so many consent issues in clubs already where people are dressed up? It doesn't make sense. I did a consent workshop at a club once, quite a few years ago, well before COVID. Within 20 minutes, someone who'd been actually turned around and broke someone else's consent, and they were dressed up to the nines. They had all the stuff dripping off them. People are reacting to that as well. We should be able to just go in our comfies. Well, I think that as well, what we've got to remember, if your kink is being a little and you want to just wear your pajamas, or you want to wear any of those things, and that's what you're comfortable in, then I think we need to start opening up the scene. I feel like dressing up in nice clothes at least shows respect. More so than what? Look, like, so the thing is, if me wearing my pajamas is a turn on and I want to turn up in my pajamas, or if I turn up in my jeans, I kind of get that people might feel uncomfortable. But what if I feel the most comfortable in my jeans? What if I'm doing something that's good for me, therefore will be good for other people? But I also understand that we need some kind of boundaries, guidance, or lines. So we do have to look at club policies, understand club policies around whether they let sexual offenders in, whether they let people in who aren't particularly nice. So again, part of our skill set is looking at what's going on, looking at what that means. Please check your own assumptions around all of these. Yeah, of course, never force people to wear things they just can't. I used to wear white lingerie many, many years ago because I liked identifying, or pinks or pastels, because I am submissive. Even when I've switched, I'm mainly submissive. So I would prefer to wear a different color to black, but you can't nowadays. You can get something in most colors in different ways, and people can wear things in different ways. So it's all about what works. However, we do have very strict door policies. Look up doors. Some people won't let you in depending on your age or your size or your gender. Please check clubs, check up write-ups, check where you're going and what you're doing. It's well known that certain clubs only want certain ages, certain sizes, certain looks, and other clubs are totally open to everybody in every way. So again, be informed, learn, develop the skills to say, okay, I don't think that's right, but I'm not going to turn up fully dressed to the nines if I know I'm not going to get in. So just be aware. And again, please watch what all these assumptions mean to you. Some munches don't have any play at all. Some munches do have play. Some munches happen behind closed doors. So at least then inform yourself and find out what it is that you're going to do. Okay, so that's just a generalized thing. The next skill you need is anatomy. I'm going to say this till I'm blue in the face. Basic anatomy. Please learn how muscles work, how nerves work, how skin works, and how different people respond to different things. You've got to be curious about, if I use this toy on this human being, what does it mean? Now, in order to find that out, we need to make sure that we know what medication they're on. That can be over the counter or under the counter. Are they drinking? What difference does it make? Because all of these things can make a difference to blood pressure, to how thin the blood is. Is this person on blood thinners? Have they taken aspirin today? Do they take painkillers on a regular basis? Do they understand that I have a condition? Like one of my daughters has something called Ehlers-Danlos, hypermobility spectrum disorder. And that means that her skin is different to everybody else's. She's more elastic than other people, but there could be more damage caused underneath that you don't notice. Oh, you're a zebra tooth. There you go. Awesome. So zebras, because that's what they're called, have different forms of injury experience. Please be aware that redheads have different forms of injury experience. They have a completely, not me, clearly, because I know it's shocking. I know it's shocking. This isn't natural. I'm just sharing that, right? This isn't natural. Right. So if you are a natural redhead, you have a slightly different gene, which impacts how you feel certain pains and certain anesthetics. So again, if you are sleeping with a redhead, if you are fucking a redhead, if you are being fucked by a redhead, if you are playing with the redhead, whatever, thank you, it is an MC1R. I wasn't going to get into technicalities, but the way we receive pain, the way they receive pain is different to other people. So again, be aware. So it's really good that we start to know this stuff. They experience different pains differently. So for example, they need different forms of anesthetic and they will feel electricity very differently. They will need different anesthetics when it comes to the dentist or anything else. People should know that. To what extent does the responsibility to know the particulars of a person's condition fall on the bottom versus a top? Both, equally, all the time. If you have a top who is, there's a good Rain de Grey story here about this one. She was having a relationship with somebody who was diabetic, who wasn't responsible for their diabetes, being tied up in the woods, fell really badly. I think he dislocated her jaw or did something quite major to her with the fall. And so is she responsible or is he? If she knows he's not looking after himself, if he knows he's not looking after himself, do you know what? We've all got to look after ourselves. No one else is going to save us, rescue us. Is there a phone there? Do I have my watch on me? Can I do someone? Does that include red facial hair? It depends on whether you've got the gene, but it's more prevalent in people with a lot of red hair. But yes, it could be. So it is there as well. So it's you're absolutely going to find it in somebody with a whole head of red hair. You are likely to find it in somebody if any of their facial hair or body hair comes out as red. So responsibility does fall on the person. We have to think about this. So you need to understand where organs are. Organs are often have a layer of fat around them in order to keep them safe. Joints have different things like sacs, tiny, tiny sacs, bursa in different places in order to protect when we sit down and do things. I've been punched so often in my hips that my bursa sacs are split. Hence, I then have injections on a regular basis. I did not know when I was younger that if I had those, that it would impact me. So I'm also going to, when we talk about consent, tell you there's no such thing as complete consent. I'll come on to that in a minute. Of course, before a session, especially with risk, get ready the safety. But what is the safety? Do you understand? So I'm going to come on to that one in a minute as well. But I just want to say before I go into it, do we understand that actually sometimes when we're put in a tricky situation, there is a well-known case in, was it Glasgow or Edinburgh, where a male top, they met for kinky sex. He was a man, she was a woman. It doesn't matter. Their gender doesn't matter, but strength might come into this here. He choked her out. They were both pissed. He choked her out so much that she died. And it took him an hour to phone the police or an ambulance. He was seen on CCTV going for a walk because he just didn't know what to do with his head, how he was, or anything else. So do we know that we can phone? Do we know that we won't panic? What is our response is really important. But let's go back to anatomy. Understand, if you are tying people, how nerves work. Understand how weight distribution works. Understand how bending someone in different ways. So like if you go to a zebra and you bend them, they'll bend remarkably for you. You'll be shocked. You know, their foot's right over here and whatever, but that doesn't mean that's good for them. Because they're overbendy, that could actually hurt them. That's just a really classic example. Or their skin is also slightly different. Understand how to hang someone if you're going to do some form of suspension. I don't mean hang, clearly. What does that mean? Please understand that you can tie anyone of any shape or size. You've just got to know what you're doing. That's it. Let's get rid of this misconception that you can only tie women who are cis-born women who are size 10 or under and have long hair because we want to tie it into the ropes. But understand their nerves, understand where nerves are, understand what skin is. Does that include a person to that? What do you mean? Sorry, Opal, for I've missed something there. Oh, amen. Thank you. A person. All right, yeah, I like that. I haven't heard that before. Sorry, being an idiot. I like that. Overextension for zebras is very, very common. My shoulders dislocate often, especially if I don't manage my movements during impact, for example. Yup. Kaylin can turn around quickly and boom, collarbone's gone. Like, you know, it can be anything. Walk down the street, boom, ankle's gone. So please understand what somebody's system is like before you start doing things, and understand nerves. So you can tie anyone, you can do anything, but understand nerves, understand pressure, understand what to do should someone have an injury. Actually, with a rope injury, there's very little. Go to hospital, make sure it's not anything else, but fuck, it's a very different thing. It's just about to come on to that. Understand their blood pressure. Understand if they have high blood pressure, especially if you're going to do things like choking somebody out, or doing different things, or waterboarding. I'm going to come on to that in a minute as well. Understand that how blood flow works if you cut it off really matters. Now, this isn't just about rope. This is also about cuffs, pressure on cuffs, on ankles, and on wrists. Understand how pressure works in certain areas of the body. Acupuncture pressure points is really interesting because you can also find certain acupressure points that cause a lot of pain and give you a lot of control over somebody. So that can be fun too. So you can do different things. So cuffs, zip ties, chains, anything that ties anyone up. Please think about what you're tying somebody up with. Think about what you're doing. There are different forms of ropes that can have different impact on different people at different times. If somebody sweats a lot and you're using like a hemp rope, the hemp rope will tighten quicker. Or like coconut type ropes. There are different forms of rope that react differently. They get smaller, they compress when they're wet. So please be careful about that sort of thing, especially if you then think, I know, I've got them beautifully tied up. I'm going to fucking piss all over them. You don't, make sure you know what your rope is and how it works. Before you start with rope, take a piece of rope, take a piece of safety scissors. Before you even start learning to tie someone, cut the rope. Understand what it feels like, understand what that means. Because when you've cut a rope, it's got an interesting feel to it. And Opal Fruit is a real expert on rope and tying. He's a rigger, and I know that Ropes does as well. You're starting to learn all of that. So I know a few people here do some tying. I'm sure you'll agree with me. Learn to cut a rope before you start tying someone with a rope. But we don't want to cut our rope because it's precious. Oh, fucking shit. Learn to cut it. Learn to, please learn and ask the person you're buying rope from, what happens when this rope is wet? What happens when it's wrapped around itself? Does it vibrate if I pull it? Because we can do incredible things with vibration with rope. We can pull and make all sort of patterns come through rope. You know, it's really interesting. You can even buy rope sometimes with little bits of metal running through it nowadays as well. So you can conduct electricity through it as well. There's all sorts of things that you can do. So understand where the major organs are. Understand where if you hit someone that could impact. Where are the kidneys? Where's the bottom of the spine? Where is safe to hit? Where isn't? Is the inside of the thighs okay? Well, again, that's going to be very different with different people for different reasons. So understand basic anatomy. Understand the skin. Feel free to message me on FetLife if you have any questions. I'll give start advice if I can. Do you mean star advice? Kidding. Conductive rope can be fun, but learn your anatomy. That includes all of your tools. Completely agree with you. Understand where organs are. Also understand, please, when you start playing with skin, that skin is different on different people. It's different around age. It's different around people who are larger or smaller. It's also different around people who have lost a lot of weight, who have put a lot of weight on, different stretching, different ideas. Skin can stretch, it doesn't come back in the same way. So it can be caught and pinched for different reasons. The inside, what's the holy shit comment about? Genuinely interested. Was that me saying about conductive rope?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
But I'm not sure, but it might be. So please be aware that skin is the biggest organ on the body and it is very delicate. Impact safety. Yep, we're going to come on to that a little bit with canes and paddles in a minute. So understand where you can hit and what you can do. If you've got your kidneys, try not to hit the spine, try not to hit around here. I have a massive crocheted body shape that shows you where it's safer to hit and not to hit. Basically, the fattier parts of our body are a hell of a lot safer because they have a lot more cushioning. There are fallacies that go around that a lot of breast play will cause some form of breast cancer. That is not true. There is no correlation between breast cancer and impact play. However, a lot of people can talk about things like bruises, hematomas, and different growths and different things that can happen through bruising. That is not the same as cancer in any way, shape, or form. Please understand how people bruise, how people burn, and how people cut. When we cut in such a way, you have to understand that if somebody is sitting in a certain position and you cut and they get up, that cut could fall open. Please make sure you know what you're doing. Make sure you have a very good medical first aid kit. So again, do your first aid course, no resuscitation. And if you can, ask a lot of people here who know a lot of stuff that say, so for example, there's some great things out there that we can use as kinksters nowadays that are much better than other things. Clearly, you need a set of good safety scissors so you can slice in and not slice somebody open. If you're going to start playing with cutting and different things as well, please make sure that you, so for example, you can steri-strip and do different things, but there's these great wound healers out at the moment that have 2 sticky sides on either side, and they have a zip tie across the middle. So if you have a very bad cut and you put that on either side, you pull it in, you pull the zip tie across it, pulls it together. But then if you're going to close something up, make sure you've got saline, make sure you've got gloves on. All of these things are really important. Damn, so much responsibility on the DOMs. I'm the sub. Is there anything I can do to help with all of this? All of this is also for the subs. Bring your own fucking first aid kit. Make sure you've got your medical knowledge there. If you are passed out, there is nothing you can do. This is not about the tops or the DOM's responsibility. This is also about mine. So like, I'm going to a cheer competition this weekend. In my, I carry, like, I can't put the rucksack on. It's about 2 stone. It really starts to hurt. I've lost 3 stone. I don't want to carry it around. It's like quite a lot. So what I do is I have my little pull along case, which the kids love. It's a trunky. And in it, I've got everything I need for an injury, from cold packs to steri-strip to gloves, you name it. I've got it all in there because I'm likely, cheer has a lot of injuries. Clearly, I'm not going to treat a broken skin bone coming through. We're going to phone, we're going to get an ambulance. And there are St. John's and there are medical people there who are really highly trained. As somebody just said, we can look at sports injuries and different things because they're quite good for us. The sport injury studies are quite good for us as a good base. Hi, Saraba. I'm really sorry. I probably haven't pronounced that right, and I'm really sorry about that. It doesn't matter that you're late. So prick stands for your personal responsibility, your awareness. I prefer prick and rack. So we understand the risk to ourselves. So I think it's even things to look for. It's also in you. It is like a top can get into top space, a bottom can get into bottom space. If we're both spaced out, maybe we need somebody checking in. Maybe we need somebody else. There are lots of things that we can look at. So I'm not, look, this is so much responsibility. I'm talking about everything I can think of at the moment in order to talk about these are the skills that we need. This is all stuff that we need to learn as we go. We don't need to know all up front. Otherwise, you'd be doing 23 courses in law, in anatomy, first aid, in psychology, in so many things that it would be too much. So I think, no, I love that you ask. Please keep asking. It's fucking wonderful. Questions are always good. Love it, love it, love it. There's no such thing as a bad or a stupid question. They're all wonderful. So but however, it is our responsibility to be aware, to keep learning and to understand. So again, understand where your major organs are, understand the implication of maybe crushing a chest. Can the person catch a breath? Do they know how to breathe differently if they need to? Do they know how to use diaphragmatic breathing if this is very tightly bound? Understand blood flow if you're cutting off blood flow. Understand the anatomy, even of the nipple. I mean, the sale of nipple clamps went up by, I think it was about 200%. Was it 2000? God, I really can't remember. It doesn't matter. But when 50 Shades of Grey came out, and all I could think of was, what sort of nipple clamp? I mean, if we're talking pasties and something you just put on compared to a serious like alligator clip, like a real crocodile, and you got to pull that off while the nipple's still in the clip. Please be aware that isn't a good look, right? If you're going, oh, fuck. I remember after having my second child and the nurse was stitching me up, and she actually said to the other midwife, she said, oh, I don't know where that bit was supposed to go. That's never a good thing to hear. Never a good thing to hear. So let's be aware of these things. You don't ask so much. How to gain this information? I talk to my doctor. Nope, your doctor will know so little about this. So little about this, really. You know, I've had really interesting talks with doctors and different people. So blood flow, you can learn from most really good riggers. They'll talk to you about what it looks like, what to look for. So you're looking for changes in colors. You're looking for whether someone can feel something, whether they've got pins and needles, whether you have, and the change of color when it's bad. I mean, you know, if something's gone black, you've probably gone too far. If something starts to change color, do you still have feeling? Can you move? Should we untie for a bit? So you've got people like reps, you've got people like Opal Fruit, you've got loads and loads of people that you can ask on the scene. Pins and needles can also feel cold as well, for sure. So things like that will make a difference. You know, and if somebody pricks a little bit and you can't feel that, we've got to work out why. As someone who is a bit tired and is from Norway, I'm tempted to ask if captioning is enabled and if it's a possibility to turn it on. I have no idea how to do that, so I apologize, but you can look at these afterwards and you can watch them again. So I'm really sorry that you're tired. I understand that I talk fast and I try to get so much in. So you can watch them again, definitely. So there are lots that, yes, still uploading to YouTube for free, or on FetLife. If you pay, you can watch a video. I put them on both. We put them on both each time. I have no idea how to do captioning. If somebody knows, that's fine. I've never seen it though. Clammy or temperature change of their skin. So what we've got is we're very our skin is very interesting. It can tell us whether we're ill, whether in danger, or whether we're doing different things. When somebody has a temperature, they can become clammy or just feel overwhelmed, or their breathing changes. So we have different responses. Galvanic responses is what they're called. So if your skin feels clammy or hot or cold or different in any way, shape, or I turned my camera off for a reason. Is my face going on YouTube? I warn people about that on every single one. I think it's just my face that appears on it, but sometimes some of the captions come up. So it's a risk. So it shouldn't do. I'm never going to promise anything. So change of skin, color, sometimes bumps, different feelings, swelling, all of those things. So feeling is really important. Please understand what chemicals people are taking, right? if somebody is taking a blood thinner, or if somebody is taking, so like there are various, if you think of somebody has palpitations or heart issues, what you've got to be careful about, for example, is that for some people, what will happen is that they react really badly to the sun. They might react very differently to electrical play. It could become a burn. Everyone has different levels of burn according to the color of our skin. There is not enough research on non-white fucking skin, according to BDSM. People are starting to do it, but there isn't enough fucking research with bloody doctors or anyone else as well. So if you are sleeping or fucking or playing with somebody who has a different color skin to you and you don't know, fucking ask them. It's quite basic. Have a conversation. Do they know? Or pull it down, do a bit of research, check. There is a wonderful doctor who is now putting out the most amazing things. And I've forgotten his fucking name. Sorry. So he is doing so much research into different color skins having different responses in different ways. Find these people, start to have a look. Now, he's doing that medically, so it's a little bit different. Thank you for looking that up, Jerry. That's really kind of you. Tit sub, I'm always happy to share my wisdom on nipple clamps and play. I'm coming on to nipple clamps, so please feel free to add. I'm trying to go through everything. Initially, when I was introduced to the kink lifestyle, I was huge on DIY. My toys has a personal touch to it. I made my own vibrators, collar, floggers, clamps. However, listening to you, I think it's a bad idea and I should buy toys by my professionals. Absolutely not. Make a way. However, be aware that any toy you make, I'm going to come on to this one a little bit later, is toy cleaning. Understand how to clean toys and what to do. I'll come on to that one in a bit. So understand that if somebody has epilepsy, if somebody has a blood condition, if somebody has different things, please check with them. If somebody has had transitioning surgery, if somebody has had breast cancer and had breast surgery, testicle surgery, surgery, anywhere, scars, different things will respond differently in people. Some people keloid scar. The darker the skin, the more likely you are to keloid. I've got pretty olive color skin, I keloid scar. Hence, I don't want to do any form of needle play because I'm likely to fucking swell like a motherfucker and get a great big lump instead of anything else as well. Just to let you know, the live stream to YouTube stopped about 30 minutes ago. Bollocks, I can't help that. However, I am recording this so I can give it to the person to put onto YouTube. If I'd say if you have medical things like this, it's definitely up to the person with the medical things to mention that 100%. But it's also responsible for both of us to be interested and both of us to ask, by the way. However, what a lot of people will do is I don't want to tell you that in case you won't play with me. So we have to be aware of that as well. I haven't even got onto the psychological stuff yet. Implant is something to be aware of for certain play too. Yep. So different implants in different ways, especially so it could be on an arm. So like if you catch it. So for example, when I had chemotherapy, I had a PICC line in. Fuck me, you can't do anything there. You also need to, Jesus, I knocked it once and I just looked like I bled for England. It was just dripping down my arm because that's an actual piece inside your body that goes down. However, so for example, the other thing, what surgery have you had? What does that mean? Being aware of your body and being aware of anatomy. I have my lymph nodes out on my right underarm. That means I have to look at the right side of my body slightly differently to somebody else. And I have to think about that because my healing will not be the same because my lymph nodes aren't there. So our lymph drainage system is fundamentally important for anything or any injury that we receive or have. Thank you. You can watch it later too. I'm sure Jerry will try and do anything he can if he can. So, but
yeah, I just had a quick chat with Open Fruit. We've forgotten that Cosmic is actually not around this week.
He's not. He's in Ireland.
Yeah, he's normally the person that does the live YouTube, so it won't be there this week.
Yeah, but it will be because I'll give it to him. It'll be in 3 or 4 days and then it'll be put up because I can send it to him as a video. We just share it. So it will be there. It just won't be immediately. That's all. So yes, so much trust is needed, but also trust of yourself. If you think about it, Lady Loki as well, it's really important. Please understand that people burn at different levels at different times. There is a bit of a fallacy that says you can't use a household candle. You can, depending if you know what's in it. You need to investigate candles, what they're made of and how they work. The same with electroplay. How does someone respond to it? The higher we lift a candle, the cooler the wax. So again, wax play is really important, but that, there was something shared a while ago where somebody was put over a burning candle and ended up with just a horrific hole in their stomach from a very serious burn. And it's the same if you want to brand somebody. Think of cautery pens, think of violet wands instead, understand how the skin works. And if you're going to do a serious brand, don't seal a brand as in seal. So if you sear someone's skin, you need it to be open so it can heal. When you close the brand, you are very likely to end up with a very large piece of dead skin. And that is not funny. It will turn black. It will drop off. So understand. You might think it's cool to put 2 candles underneath somebody's nipples or their stomach or their ass and say, hold it there. Yeah, but make sure they're not burning. When you can smell burning, it's too late and the damage is big. Toy bag guides are a great starter place for various types of play. Yep, there are loads that we can look at and do. So please make sure that you know anatomy, the basics, and how to use all these things on people. Please make sure you understand where somebody is hormonally. If someone is on their period, their hormones are different to when they're off their period. If somebody's in the menopause, understand that their hormones are different. If they're peri or post hormonal as well, like peri sort of menopausal, please understand that their hormones are different. If somebody is taking hormones, understand that their hormones are different, and all of these things have huge implications. So I think it's really important. Let's have a look as well about somebody's mind. How is somebody? What does that mean? Is somebody well? Can somebody consent to something? How are they feeling today? What's their mood like? Our mood impacts how we receive pain and what we do. We have one pain receptor. When do you please comment on this event's comment section or on a FET post? I'll be checking up. Yeah, I'll try and Google it and look it up. I remember reading about this doctor and I was so interested in them. It was so awesome what they were doing. Loved it because their point was, yeah, this is all based on white skin. A bit like ADHD tests are kind of dependent on 6 to 12-year-old boys. You know, like a lot of stuff doesn't stay up to date and include everybody. The original pill that was originally done was actually meant for men to take. And guess what? They didn't want to take it because there were too many side effects. So they gave it to women. Like, you know, a lot of this stuff is based on certain people in certain ways. And we are just not inclusive enough. Hopefully we will be one day. We won't be in my lifetime, maybe in a couple 100 years. So if somebody's mind, what do we think about around that as well? Did you cover pot and antidepressants? I said that any form of drug, please check what they're on and please check the influence of it. If somebody is under the influence of some kind of strong drug, I would personally not play with them. That is not my choice. That's not what I want to do. You can absolutely play if you want to. Anything that impacts our mind and how we think has an impact on how we play and the choices that we make. However, if you then want to turn around and say, I gave consent to that, or you didn't, if you're utterly paralytically drunk, then clearly you can't give consent. If you gave consent before, one of my fantasies that I haven't done yet, and actually I will never do, is to be drugged. So I'm off my head completely. I do not know what is happening to me. He does whatever he wants to me. He videos it and he shows it to me afterwards. It's pretty hot as a fantasy. However, I don't know the side effects of the drugs that I'll take. I don't know what's going to happen to me afterwards. And I don't know what the flashbacks are going to be like. And I don't know how traumatizing that is going to be. Therefore, I'm not willing to take that risk. Does that make sense? Antidepressants also depends on the antidepressant. So for example, if you're on something like lithium compared to a basic SSRI, then that will have a different implication on how it impacts your brain, your blood flow, your skin, and so many other things, and the way you perceive things. And painkillers as well, if you take painkillers, they can stop emotional and physical pain, and they interrupt how we are experiencing something if somebody's on a lot of painkillers, and they impact us differently. So different drugs, look up the drug, make sure you know what you're talking about. I did a workshop months and months and months ago on the impact of most drugs over the counter and under the counter. Do you remember this one, Jerry? On everything we do around play, around sex, and everything else as well. So I did a whole workshop on drugs and how each drug, so bear in mind, even hay fever medication can dry us out, for example. So if we're taking hay fever medication, we might not get as wet. Interesting. Who knew that? Eh? So if we take a lot of hay fever medication, it's amazing how each drug impacts us and impacts our play. easily, yeah, much more easily dehydrated as well, depending on how you take it. And things have rebound. So if somebody has a really bad cold and they take a decongestant, they take a nasal spray. What we know from that nasal spray is within 2 to 3 days, if they keep taking it, they will end up with something called rebound, which means they won't be able to breathe. If somebody, paracetamol dries you out. I was talking about antihistamines, not paracetamol in that phrase. So if somebody takes like a nasal spray and it's wearing off and you have a gag on them, for example, on their mouth, or you have something in their mouth, and all of a sudden they can't breathe, you are causing a greater risk than you thought. So again, all of these things matter. They really do. Right, so minds, different things. How can we go? Let's talk about what we have to look at around knowledge, intellect, and emotions. And we're only an hour through, but we will get there. I've got so many more. Look at someone's experience. People can also lie about their experience. When people's pain tolerance deteriorates, it's because they haven't played in quite a while. If somebody plays quite a lot, their pain tolerance can be higher. Different people have different forms of tolerance. Please go to workshops. Please talk to people. Please learn from people that have been doing this, but not everybody knows what they're doing. Please make sure you understand their history when it comes to sexual abuse, physical abuse, or emotional abuse. We could trigger something or do something that we don't mean to do. My statement as a blanket statement is, do not use BDSM as a way to sort out trauma. Look, deep down, I don't actually do that. If you have a very serious trauma, somatizing and working through feeling and felt experience actually can be really beneficial. But when it goes wrong, it goes so wrong that it causes more damage than good. So please do that in conjunction with a trauma therapist, with somebody who really knows what they're doing. So a private message said, it frightens me, my own self, the extent of pain I ache for, maybe shame not wanting it, the defiled. Like, it's really interesting when we start to talk about shame, when we look at humiliation and we look at, it's often the most downspoken thing from the outside world. How can you like that level of humiliation and degradation and pain? However, it's much more complex than that, because it's very related, our pain receptors and where they are and how they work. If you, again, I've got a whole writing on pain, how to play with pain, how to change pain. You can have a really good time with pain. I've got a whole writing on that. We've got a lot of them. So I think we can be frightened. And if you do feel a lot of shame and you are really struggling with that, I would really suggest going to some kind of BDSM specialist or trauma therapy or anything else as well. It's one of my writings. I would have to find it. I haven't got it with me right now. BDSM is a bonus on therapy rather than the whole tool. If you're not doing therapy, okay, this is controversial, but I'm going to say it anyway, because I like saying controversial things. Do not use BDSM as a form of trauma therapy without making sure that you can handle it when it goes wrong, or you have flashbacks or things get worse, which means probably sort it in therapy before you go into it, or have some therapy alongside. However, that isn't talking therapy. Talking therapy is not good for trauma. Trauma is all about the sympathetic nervous system responding. When the sympathetic nervous system responds, it short circuits and bypasses anything to do with our logic or our sensibilities. So again, be aware that we can trigger trauma when we're playing. We can cause some really serious issues. Be aware as the bottom that if you do have some form of trauma and you have a trauma response, it is your responsibility to convey that you are in a different headspace or something has just gone wrong. If you can't, now we're in trouble. If we try to say the top should have realized or should have seen, sometimes people do not show any form of change in their exterior when they are in a trauma response. What type of therapy should, oh, thank you, Jerry. There you go. There's the writing. Psychomotorical therapy has helped me a lot. There are various forms of trauma therapy that you can use. It isn't just talking therapy. When you speak to a therapist, find out what their trauma experience is and what they know about it. So often we can talk about EMDR, we can talk about psychosomatic. There are lots of ways that we can deal with it to help people. Yes, what is a goat? Or is the goat?
I'm flattered.
Yeah, surely. Right. So yes, so there are different therapies that can help, but trauma can be triggered. So for example, if you are in a traumatic space, so the trauma responses, fight, flight, freeze that people know about. There's also friend, fuck, fawn, flop, foe. I think that's all of them. Fight, flight, freeze, friend, fuck, fawn, flop, foe. Yeah, 8. So there are 8 Fs as forms of trauma responses. So somebody could say yes consensually or not say yes, but their body seems enthusiastic, but they're actually in the middle of a trauma response. You can't win. Oh, greatest of all time. I like that. That's really cute. So we have to, oh God, but we can't all be a bloody psychotherapist or a counselor or understand. And actually, a lot of psychotherapists and counselors don't know when someone's in a trauma response anyway. So again, this is stuff that's so far out of our reach, but just be conscious of it. Always be checking, always be asking, does this person want this? Are they enthusiastically saying yes? If they close down and they don't talk, but their body is responding, personally, stop. If their body's going for it, but they're not verbalizing anything, I would rather stop and get it wrong than carry on and get it wrong. Very different implications. That's my personal preference. You can always have a do-over. You can always do it again. You can't undo something that is bad. It's a long, complex topic, but if we were to discuss in brief, do you think BDSM, kink, STEM originate purely from childhood and adolescent trauma? I've talked to multiple people and got mixed opinions. The answer is a piece of string. So can a fetish or a kink come from a childhood or an adolescent trauma? Yes, sometimes. However, most people, more often than not, again, look at anything by Sprott, Richard Sprott, what we're finding is a lot of us kinky fuckers are just simply born this way. Something might stimulate it or happen, and you'll get a lot of mixed opinions. When I get a mixed opinion, I want to know, what research have you read? Who is the research by? And where have you got your provenance? Where's the provenance for your opinion? I'm not interested in people saying, well, the people I've met, or I read something on the internet, or a nurse in fucking New Zealand told me. Fuck off. Know your stuff. I feel very strongly about that. Everyone says greatest of all time, they're just saying it to you. Replying to it's a long complex. I asked myself this, and I'm pretty sure it's my natural wild side. I feel giddy with knowing when seeing Jasmine in chains and in Aladdin, in the Aladdin Disney movie. Yeah, so it can be stimulating. It can be. Roy, my kinky thoughts started very young without any kind of trauma. I didn't have young kinky thoughts. It was awoken in me when I was 17 and I did something I was in. It was a long time ago. So yeah, it varies. Please be aware of someone's mental state. So we talked about a trust is really important. Does this person have my best interests at heart, or are they just after getting their rocks off? I do think we should take everything a bit slower. We tend to go very, very, very fast nowadays and say, oh yeah, it's fine. I don't know you, but of course you can put your fist inside me and zip wire my fucking throat, or, you know, or like, it's quite interesting. Being aware of yourself can be difficult. It's really important. So I totally agree with that one as well. How am I handling today? Letting someone down can feel really difficult, especially if you're a bit of a fawner or a people pleaser. You will often then, I speak to a lot of my clients about this. Yeah, but I don't want to let the other person down, or they won't like me if I don't do it. That is something we really have to get over. I have lots of love for people pleasers because I've definitely been one. It's still something we have to learn to manage, but it takes time and it's really complex and difficult. Look at what we get from it. So look at your own mental health. A question I get asked a lot is, can BDSM be self-harm by proxy? Yeah, sometimes. However, if you are going to do that, at least inform your top, so they have a right to choose whether they're doing that with you or for you or for any other reason. People use pain for very different reasons. And actually what we find is, for people who have fibro or chronic fatigue syndrome and different things, actually creating a different pain can help them with their energy and actually help them manage other pain. So what we also know, when we have somatic responses and our sympathetic nervous system kicks in, if we learn to manage that pain in a very pleasant or pleasing way, we learn to manage this not so nice pain for ourselves as well. So we know that we do it. Many won't even know they're using it for self-harm. Absolutely. And we can still, it's one of the most common questions I'm asked when I'm running a workshop for some reason. Is it harm? Don't know. Ask the person and they may not know either. One of the most important skills we can have is understand your own values please, because if you understand your own values, you are less likely to go against them, which then won't cause an issue for you when you start playing or doing different things with people. So understanding yourself and what you do and don't want to do. Like if you say, no, I don't really want to send you a photograph, and you find that 3 weeks later you're sending photographs and you've gone against your own value, why? Why have you? What's happening there? Or I don't ever want to punch you. Like punching is a big one. A lot of people are brought up male, masculine, are told not to hit women. So when that lesson is consistently taught, and then you come along as this big bloke and you go, right, I'm fucking having you, and you're shaking her like a rag doll and punching her, you're like, fuck, I'm a bad human. So a lot of our shame and a lot of our stuff comes into this that we've been taught growing up as well. Master of the things you have not done, but a slave to those you have. I don't get that fully. I think I'm being a bit of a twat there. I'm so sorry. Master of the things you have not done, but a slave to those you have. What? So I mean, that's more tempting. That's your experience. Is that what you're saying? I'm so sorry. I'm getting that wrong. Nice kitty. So really understand your own values, because they're really important. Understand your own issues. You cannot take these things back. Oh, okay. Thank you very much for being clear. You really have to understand that, is this what I'm doing? Does it sit with my values as a human being? Because if it goes against, I wrote a piece on a hypothesis that retroactive withdrawal of consent is actually a moral shame injury. What do I mean by moral shame? So doctors, soldiers, people who kill people often have a moral shame injury, a moral injury whereby they feel so bad because they've done something that they shouldn't do. We can have something very similar. If we are told that nice girls don't have a gangbang, I'm using genders on purpose here a little bit because it's the cliches and all those things that we're told, people growing up, that nice girls don't do a gangbang. And let's say you've just taken 20 hands, fists, cocks, mouths, lips, whatever, from all sorts of genders in all sorts of ways, and had a great time and thought that's fucking amazing. The likelihood is that there might be some regret and some shame that comes in. So we have to look into that as well. So understanding your own values and the risk that you're about to take with your values is really important. It's one of those major skills that we need to develop so that we feel okay with what we do, because it sits. Please understand what negotiation and consent look like. Listen, I've got a massive writing on consent. I don't know if Jerry's going to go and look for it now. He might do. Sorry, Jerry. Goat. But it's a very long piece of writing on consent. Some of my writings are very long. I just wrote one all about tits. Fuck me, it's a 20-minute read, but it tells you everything you will ever need to know about tits, about damage, about what we can do, about sort of injuries, about how they're developed and what we do. These things, you know, if you like this sort of stuff, you can really start to research it and look into it. The thing about consent for me is, and I'm going to say something again, maybe a little bit controversial, maybe not, depends on how you feel about it, is I don't think that there is any such thing as complete or full or aware consent. You are only as aware as you can be in that moment. You do not understand the implication of what you're about to do emotionally or physically later. So consent is only as good as the conversations you have in the moment with those two people in that moment. Now, when I teach consent, I look at all sorts of things. I look at Fry's, I look at Betty Martin's Wheel of Consent. I look at all these different things to help us learn what consent is all about, that it's enthusiastic, that we're aware of it. However, there are limitations to consent, the same as I do not believe that there is any such thing as safe sex. It doesn't exist. Every form of sexual connection carries a risk, whether that's an STI or whether that's a pregnancy. Even if you put 33 condoms on, your skin can contain stuff, your blood contains. So like, again, I've run a workshop on all forms of STIs that we can get and like the risk factors of them and the percentages. I have to run a lot of workshops actually, haven't I? So you
one or two, Deb, one or two.
I know people must be getting really bored of me. Sorry. So you don't know, and I agree with you, Reps. You can't know after the fact. You can only know as good as you know now, and actually your morals and values can change. However, what I would suggest is that you own your own decisions at the time. With what I knew then, I actively chose to do that. That's a really important thing. It was my choice. Don't then say, well, I didn't know and it's not fair, unless there was coercion. I'm still trying to get through your tits writing. I'm so sorry. It is so long in a real TLDR brain fog funk. I'm sorry. Do you know what I would do if I were you, tits up? I would copy and paste it. I wouldn't keep going back to the beginning, especially if you're having that sort of brain fog. I would then put it on your own format in your own area, and I would highlight the bits or cut them out or understrike or line through them so you don't have to start again each time. That's what I would do. There's no such thing as safe sex. Yep. And there's no such thing as safe play. You're not boring at all. Oh, thanks. Not boring in any way. Never bored of you. Oh, I don't know. I might reach a point. There's the common knowledge of kind of, you need to know what you like and dislike before you start playing with someone, which I think is generally true. But how do you get to that point, especially if you have little or no experience or knowledge? How do you figure out what you like or don't like, what your limits are? You start small. So, for example, this is all part of negotiation. I haven't done that before. I think I'll like it. That's very different to, yeah, I've done that. I'll do it. I'll try it. We know what turns us on. Like if you're thinking about it and your cunt or your cock or your tits or whatever is just start humming a little bit, then there's something in that I might want to try. However, if you think, oh, I quite like the idea of a cane. Okay, there's a real difference between a slight cane mark and a Singapore caning, which splits your skin open. So understand that we start small, we can always build. So, and I think it's a false economy to say to people, you need to know before you start. How the fuck can you? What you can do is express an interest. Again, it's a skill to have, to say, I'm here. I don't know if I'm going to like that. I'm going to start here and I'm going to build myself up and see what that's like. So that's really important as well. It's part of the negotiations that we have. Start with your boundaries smaller than you need them to be. And then you can always expand them as you go. I don't know why so many people have a very strange kink. And it is a strange kink of, that's your boundary. Oh, I'm going to push past that one then. How about you go fuck yourself instead? But it's not a goal. My boundaries aren't a goal for you to reach. My boundaries are pretty out there in some respects. If they're not, it's because I've tried things and my boundaries are here. It shouldn't be a goal to push someone's comfort or boundaries. You might grow together, you might change things, but as a part of responsibility of being somebody who is in charge or dominant or accepts on some level that authority, your goal isn't to destroy the other person. It's to leave them better than you found them. It's to leave them as healthy as you found them. And it's also not your goal, and it should not be, to make them better or make them dependent. The amount of dominance or power exchange that I see where somebody says, I'll cure them of that eating disorder, or I'll sort them out, or I'll tell them not to do that. Yeah, good luck with that shit. I mean, fucking hell, it might work for a few months, but believe me, you are setting the person up to fail. So understand your own limitations and the boundaries of who you are and what that looks like. And if you are coming from a place where you have some form of issue and you want the dominant to sort it out, good luck with that one too, because eventually that will not work. We have to learn how to do these things for ourselves, by ourselves, preferably with professional help. So absolutely have experienced it. Inform yourself, ask the question of their experience, the understanding if they're active or just aware. So I think knowing yourself is interesting. I've run a workshop on fantasy versus reality. And actually, sometimes when you try something, the stuff you had in your head is too prescriptive, too specific. And you try it and you go, well, that was shit. That was shit. As a sub, what do I do if DOMs come to me with this hero attitude, whether or they know they are doing it or not? That sounds super awkward. They're white knighting, probably. Not all DOMs do it. And actually, this isn't gender related either. A lot of people do this. They really see themselves as rescuers on the drama triangle. If somebody comes in wanting to fix somebody else, I would probably say, it depends, right? So it depends on the relationship and what you're doing. So I think it's about twisting it. You can either name it and say, I'm really sorry, that's not the sort of relationship that I want or I'm after. I think it's really important that I become dependent on myself and fix myself. But what I would really love through that is your support and love and affection and care. I would like you to help motivate. I would like you to support me. Or you say, fuck off. You don't know what you're doing. Don't interfere with something you don't know. Take your pick and choose anything in between all of those. Because somebody doesn't know what they're doing. Mind if I post a couple of links related to the drama triangle? No, actually on FetLife, I have a whole writing on the drama triangle as well, if you want to look it up, ropes. So, but yeah, the drama triangle is really important. I think it's a good communication skill that we have. So it talks about being a rescuer. My dogs are barking. I bet that's my food shop really early. So we can have, so we've got a victim, a rescuer, and a persecutor. And we play different parts on that drama triangle. And you can find a lot of rescuers are actually submissives, but also a lot of doms or tops are, a lot of victims are the same, and a lot of persecutors are. But being on that triangle doesn't mean that we're in an adult position. So we need to learn some of these communication skills. Is it okay? Thank you, Ropes. Is it okay if I choose to stay away from people with certain kinks? I don't want to point out kinks, but I'm really revolted by them. I'm not judging the person or hating them in any way. And I hope they continue doing what they want. Do you know what? You are not being toxic, and you are justifying everything you think. Nobody owes you okayness. We don't owe anyone else okayness. We don't have to yuck someone else's yum. If somebody comes up in and loves scat, for example, we need to understand a lot about piss. Really, I've got a massive writing on piss play. Really understand. People say, oh, it's fine because it's all really healthy. No, it's not. It's not. It's sterile. No, it's not. Understand what you're doing. Informed is amazing. There are huge risks around scat. There are some risks around urine. For example, if you decide that chemo, if you have a strong level of chemo, your piss is toxic for at least the next 2 to 3 days. You should be wiping down the toilet, certainly not pissing over or near anyone else. It contains chemotherapy in it, so absolutely not. Don't do that. So we have to be really careful about understanding what we do. If you don't like someone else's kink, absolutely steer clear of it. You've got every right to do that. Just don't be a cunt about it. That's the difference. We don't have to be horrible. Ugh, fuck off. That's disgusting. We are not in, we're not in school. Let's be adults about it. Oh, cool. I'm really glad you like that. But we don't have to say that. Wait, so in a pinch, you can share chemo. Tell the Americans they can save money. Yeah, I think you'll find chemo isn't as broad as you think it is. But yeah, maybe. Oh, gross. Can you imagine? How are you getting your chemo? She pisses over me every day, or I swallow it. No, don't do that. Really not good, not recommended, not medical. Stay away. Really not good. But I like that. That's a funny comment. So understand whether you can hold your boundaries and your preferences. There are differences between a boundary and a preference. If you have a boundary is if you do that, I am gone. That is a boundary. If you do that, I am out. If you keep saying, if you do that, I'm out, and you don't go, it's not a fucking boundary. It's just a challenge. So boundaries are really important for you to hold. Preferences are different. I would rather you didn't. Could we do that instead? Could we talk differently? Again, I've got lots of writings on boundaries as well. We have to understand if we can hold a boundary. You've got to ask yourself, am I willing to see that through? Would I leave you if you did this? Hard limits on FET are useful. Any form of hard limits are really good. Understand your harder limits, your softer limits, your curiosity. I definitely don't want to do that. I'm curious about that, but can we take things slowly? Please be aware that there is a difference between toxicity and abuse. Again, I have a writing on that. A lot of people say, oh, that was really abusive. That person was abusive. No, together you were toxic as fuck. The person didn't mean you any harm. Some things went wrong. Please be aware, again, use your skills and your knowledge not to accuse people of being narcissists or psychos or gaslighting or any of these words that we use that clearly we don't really know what they mean. And they are quite a big accusation. My daughter was just on a trip. We were in America, and then they went on to the Bahamas with some other young people, all overage sexually. And one turned around and said about another one that person is got sexual interest in me. I don't want to share a room with them. And my daughter's pretty experienced at this stuff and said, are you aware of what you're implying? If you are, this person also wants to go into the army. We will go to the police. We will have to do something about this. 4 hours later, what they really find out is this person's boyfriend said, you're not fucking sharing a room with him. If you do, we're done. So this was now a manipulation. So please be aware of the sort of words that you use and how you use them, because my God, it's not funny. Please write out your social media or your digital policy. People keep pictures. People have pictures. People have videos. Once it's out there, say goodbye. Really decide what you want to do about that. I was in Lamb once, and I said to this guy who I'd been seeing for a while, and he said to his girlfriend at the time, his sub, oh my God, Sam, this is Deb. She's the one that you watched last night being anally fucked. And I said, sorry? My digital policy is if I've given you a video or a photograph, you delete it as soon as we're done. I mean, do people stick to things? Maybe not, but at least try and put it out there. So again, as part of what you're doing, please have a look at what is your social media and your digital policy. What does that look like? Please look at what your requirements are for aftercare. Once you've negotiated your hard, your soft limits, and you've had negotiations, and again, I've got a fucking huge writing on how to negotiate. So again, I don't want to spend my whole time doing that. That's a 2-hour workshop, but there is a really large writing. I'm winking at anyone who wants to go and find it for me. You don't have to, but I've got a massive writing on negotiation, right? So you can understand how to negotiate. We can also negotiate aftercare. And I've written about this and panic attacks and everything else as well. You are not owed aftercare, right? I really understand that this is controversial. If your aftercare needs are impossible for somebody else to give, then don't play with them. And sometimes tops need as much aftercare as bottoms. So again, understand yourself, what that means and what it is that you need. Plan. Get yourself the right sort of snacks. Get yourself the right sort of care. If you're playing on a Sunday and your partner goes to work on the Monday, they can't phone you 20 times that day. They can't wrap you up in a duvet. They can't put you in a bath or look after you. Everybody gets drop. It is not about submissives. It is not even about tops. It is not about the kink scene. Loads of people suffer from drop, and they suffer from drop when they get a chemical high and have a really great time. Thank you, Jerry. You goat, you. So going to stay, isn't it now? So lots of people get drop. So when they get drop because maybe they've been in a show or they've done something. So we all have to look at how can we get the aftercare that we need or want? And can this person give it to us? And can we guarantee that they can give it to us? What if they drop too? What if they're not in a good place? And we're like, well, you should have given me aftercare. Maybe not. Maybe they can't. Maybe something else has happened. Maybe there's an emergency. Always have a backup. That backup is you. How can you give yourself aftercare, and what does that mean? We then have to look at the more physical skills that we need. So the physical skills are more about toys. We can learn about the different forms of canes that there are, whether they're fiberglass, actual glass, whether they are woods, and there are a variety of woods, whether they're bamboo, whether they're perspex, they can be many things. And each cane, according to its thinness, its thickness, and how you use it and its shape, will leave a different mark and have a different impact on different people's bottoms, tits, stomachs, thighs, halves, all sorts of different places. Sharing it here, if someone didn't know already, if you share something on Telegram, it stays on the server and it stays on the phone storage of the receiver. Even if you delete it for both of you, the metadata is still in the phone storage of that other person. Always share a view once mode. I would say the same about WhatsApp, even though it's much harder to get. What do you think of neutrals in the drama triangle, as in people who simply engage and take everything said at face value? Neutrals were never put in the drama triangle in the beginning. So I think it depends what you're asking there. To what extent would you personally try to accommodate and analyze for what you might think is the other partner pushing themselves too much? Apologies, I'm ignorant. I've not come across the writings. That's okay. If you've got somebody, again, what I was talking about earlier was people pleasers, that, or like, I'm not taking into account what I want and how that works. If you cannot communicate what you want, if you cannot communicate boundaries, if you cannot say no, if you do not know your own limits, personally, I'm not playing with you. I will make that decision for my own safety in the future and my own mental health in the future. If somebody's always trying to compensate and make it really nice for you, that can feel really lovely, especially if you're a top. But if it's all they do and put themselves at risk, or they're not okay, you can either put in rules that say you really matter, you must put in what you like and you must say what you do. But of course, if the person is having some kind of trauma response, they can't necessarily say that. Personally, I found mindful self-compassion helpful in my own aftercare. Yep. So any form of self-compassion, eating, do the basics, sleep, water, food, and then do everything psychological as well. Same with most digital exchanges. Once it's out there, it's out there. I agree. Cheers. Welcome. So canes, as I just said, understand how to look after your toys. Each toy has a different form of cleaning that is necessary depending on what it's made of, depending on whether it's been bled on, depending on whether it has bodily fluids in or on, depending on skin cells, depending on viruses, depending on so many things. Again, I have a really big writing on how to look after your toys. Personally, as a submissive who wants to be played with in different ways, I have my own collection of toys. I would rather that you use my shit on me, so that's healthier, and you can use your shit on whoever else you want to use it on. My own stuff, I feel, is personally a lot better. I know how clean it is. I know what I do with it. Some stuff can be shoved in a dishwasher. Some stuff needs polishing. Some stuff needs waxing. Everything needs a different form of cleaning. So again, look up my writing on toys and how to clean them. And I cover everything, whether it's leather, whether it's perspex, whether it's glass, whether it's plastic, whether it's latex, everything is covered there, whether it's rope even, because some ropes you can actually put in the washing machine. Some ropes, if you do that, you can say goodbye to them because they'll never come out okay. Again, know your stuff. Whips, there are so many different types of whips. So we're now getting into fluid bond items. Most things are fluid bond items because we all have fluid. Like we sweat, we have viruses, we have skin, but we talk about fluid bonding about piss, shit, maybe a little bit more solid. Depends if you've eaten something that didn't agree with you. Oh, thank you, Jerry. There you go. Everything you need to know about sharing toys and bits and bodies and cleaning. So again, it depends what we're talking about. Fluids. Everyone sees fluids as different things. Spit is a very strong fluid. You know, it's actually more dirty from a germ perspective to kiss someone than it is to lick their ass. But, you know, a lot of us will go, oh, I'm not doing that. So again, understanding is really important. Right. There are different forms of whips and types. So we can get single tails, cat's tails, cat and nine tails. We can have dragon tails. We can have bull whips. We can have short whips. Again, there are lots of forms of whips and they cause different forms of impacts on a body and different forms of skin types. They can open skin or they can mark skin or they can wrap and feel quite nice. Some have crackers on the end. There are different forms of crackers. They make fantastic noises. It's all about your wrist action. You can learn. You can also get floggers. Again, there are some really impressive things you can do with floggers, from all sorts of beautiful work that people do. And it can look very fancy, but it might not feel very nice. It depends what you want. There are heavy floggers. There are stinging floggers. There are different floggers meant for different things. What's the safest toy to use if you want loud slaps for a long time? It depends on the person's weight and size, because you get different noises depending on where you impact the body in different sizes. It also depends what you mean by a loud slap. Your hand makes a very loud slap. Leather, like especially like paddles and different things, will make a very loud noise. Thuddy things will not. Quite a thin leather like that without too much impact is probably going to be a leather paddle if you want the loudest noise. However, if you want to do not too much damage, even cupping your hand and hitting someone, so when you clap, quite loud. When you cup, it gets a lot louder. There are all sorts of little tricks and things that you can do that make a difference. So it depends. Depends what you're doing. Please understand, right? So, okay, locks and chains, locking people up. If you use a key, have spare keys. Fucking hell, collars, all of it. I just gave Cosmic a collar because, you know, I thought it's about time he knew his place. That's a little bit of a joke. I just gave him a collar that I'd never used, but I found it quite funny that I said I gave him my collar. I made a big deal about that. And it's a steel one. And he said to me, what's the combination? I said, it must be the basic, like 0000, because I've never used it. And he said, well, there are no zeros. And I went, well, I don't fucking know then. Try this one, because I think that might be right. But then he tried the basic that would come from a non-zero, which is a 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, know your stuff, know how to get out of things without having to dislocate anything. Please understand, if you use dildos, insertables and vibrators, understand that use condoms, cover them, do different things, protect them. Don't go from arse to cunt unless you're willing to take that sort of risk. If you want to take that sort of risk, you are looking at some form of STI, potentially. You will probably end up on antibiotics. I have 12 padlocks that will have the same key. I hope you never lose it. Or do you have 12 keys?
Each one's got 2, so I've got 24 keys.
Oh, you'll be fine wherever you go. So again, like little things like keeping these things on lanyards and different things when you're playing, so they've got easy access. They're really there. They're really quick. Again, know your stuff. Wait, you put a collar on your dude without knowing how to unlock it? No, I didn't. He's not my dude. He's not my dude. He's the guy that runs LAM. I was giving away some kink stuff the other day, and I said, hey, if anyone wants any of this, it's all very clean. It's up to you. You can take your own risk. And I put pictures of it and he went, I'll have that metal collar. No, I didn't put it on him. I presented him with it, you know, because I thought it was funny, but no, he's a male top. So understand that dildos, insertables, vibrators, whether they're butt plugs, whether they're for different things, you can use everything in every way, shape or form that you want to. Be aware of how to clean it. All these insertables can vary from wood to plastics to glass to latex to gloves to different things. Again, we can cover these things with condoms. We can cover them. Of course, you can get latex-free condoms if you have allergies. You can actually be allergic to sperm. 0.01% of people actually can be allergic to each other when they have fluid bonded sex. I have met one person in my career who was actually allergic to their partner, and I've got over, I don't know how many hours, I've got 60,000 hours of therapy now, one person. So like, fuck, it's really unusual. But be aware of what might hurt you and how it works. Dildos, insertables, vibrators, do what they say on the package. Some are double-ended, some are just for insertion, some are for moving around, some whirl, some twist, some move, some hit the clitoris, some don't, some go for the G-spot, some don't. Try the things that you want to try. Go and speak to experts. So like if you go and speak to Adam, like if you're ever someone like Lamb or somewhere else, like this guy makes dildos for a living. He's so good. He knows all of these things and he's got different textures and different feelings about how things work. And it's the same with strap-ons. Choose something that fits you, choose something that's comfortable. Often people go for the biggest, it is the Godamichi guy. He really knows his stuff. So like if you choose a strap-on, I don't know why people always go for the hardest, biggest, most rockiest cock. They're not always the best. Like real cocks aren't always rock solid. They have flexibility and can move. That's the whole point. You can also find dildos that actually, I've got one as it goes, who are absolutely have been created from being in the vagina. And they're a very interesting shape. They are not the same as a cock shape. Private message. One thing I've been worried about when you get penetrated in both pussy and anal by, say, penis and dildo at the same time, is there something to be regarding the wall between the two holes? So that wall is actually quite thin. It's more likely to rupture on the anal side, and the risk with anal sex, the reason why we are more likely to get some form of STI, something from anal sex, is because of the greater likelihood of bleeding and tearing and ripping, because those walls are quite thin. They are thin. You don't have to worry about them overly. It depends if you're fluid bonded, if you're going to do it with fluids with different people, or it depends if you've got condoms and different things on different people.
Presumably, anal passages are not designed for being inserted into generally. Well,
not biologically or medically, but they really function well with being inserted into.
I do know that.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, go slow is what I will always say. So like often for people, actually, people get this around the wrong way. They go into the vagina first, then try and fill up the arse. Look, if you don't have an arse that is used to being used or isn't particularly flexible, do some anal training, use different size butt plugs, start to push, and make sure your muscles do come back. Of course, we can go too far. We can cause tears. We can cause all sorts of issues. People like a rosebud, but it's actually a prolapse. That's pretty serious stuff. If and you can buy instruments that create a prolapse. That's fucking crazy, isn't it? Look, if you want one, go for it, but please be aware of the implications of having a prolapse. It's always good to make a decision based on whether the dildo will be vagina or anal, maybe different types for each. They can damage you. Yes. So if you go in too brutally and you're going in both, like if you've got a flexible real life penis, they'll cause less damage. Clearly, if somebody's got a 12-inch cock, maybe don't take that one in your arse. That said, the arse has more space and actually stretches more. The actual vaginal canal it stops, it's in a different way. There's something I never understood when using a vibe, inserting it more sense-inducing or rubbing over the clit labia. I've had different fucking reactions from the same persons, and it's a mindfuck every time. It's not a mindfuck if you accept that it is different every time. So the real point about that is it depends on the person's mood. It depends on their stimulation. The clitoris isn't just at the front. We think it is. The clitoris actually comes back. It comes back very far, and it has two sets of walls that come round. Some people who own a vagina come from penetration. Some people do not. Some people just come from clitoral stimulation. Some people come from insertions. Some people come from you can have anal orgasms, you can have skin orgasms, you can have mind orgasms, you can have nipple orgasms. So you can do all of those things. I think Jerry just did that as well. So you both done it. Thank you, Ropes, and thank you.
I posted to his
Jerry.
website I posted the website. That's the
Oh, the website and Fairlife. Look at you two. Right. So
firing all cinders here.
I know, but so you could so the problem is what you need to do is if you're talking about a clit or a labia, ask the clit or the labia user. It's really simple. I do not come from penetration or never have. And believe me, I've slept with over 1,000 people in my life of all genders and all types. I own my whoredom in the most proud way. I love everything I've done. However, not one thing inserted in me has ever made me have an orgasm. That might be me. It might be the system, my system. It's the same with squirting. Understand and learn about squirting. It is mainly piss. I'm really sorry. It is. Read the science about it. It doesn't matter. You can orgasm with squirting or you cannot orgasm with squirting. Again, it depends on pressure and what happens. Even if you empty your bladder, the bladder refills it and it's got more water, but you've got different glands that enable people to squirt in different ways, like Skene's glands and different things. Again, understand your anatomy. With a clitoris, understand the anatomy of a clitoris. It's huge. Understand the anatomy of a penis. The underside of the penis is often left out by a lot of people. When a penis is erect and it's back on someone's back, to run your mouth and your tongue up and down can feel really good to some people. The same as licking testicles and stuff can. Sucking someone's balls. I'll tell you what, I read this piece by an 18-year-old years ago. It was pretty good. It was a pretty good piece on the anatomy of the penis and how to suck someone's penis. And I countered it with a 2-word answer. Do you know what my answer was? Ask him. That's it. Ask the person who owns the clitoris or the penis, regardless of how they identify with gender, them, they, him, her, it doesn't matter. Ask them what works for them. Because some will tell you do circles, some will tell you put pressure here, some will tell you do this, some will tell you use your teeth, use lots of spit. No, don't do that. I prefer it drier. Please use some lube. Fuck me. Or watch them. Watch how they do it. If you are peri or postmenopausal, you will have a totally different response potentially. If you're on certain drugs, work it out. It's good to have techniques to try, but actually the best technique you can do is just watch them wank, to be fair. You'll learn a lot. Past partner never had one from internal stimulation and cannot squirt. Not everyone can, and that's okay. Work out what works for you. Totally. So it is nice. Okay, so you can also have sounding where you put things in the urethra. I'm going to ignore that red because we're in a workshop. Sorry, Jay, be responsible for yourself. It's only because I know he's joking, honestly. So sounding is something that some people enjoy. Again, please be careful with what you insert. Again, if you scratch or you do different things, that can cause a lot of issues and a lot of trouble. Buy a proper set of sounds, preferably with a top, because when you start going in, if you let go, that stuff can keep on traveling because it's called a vacuum. You will end up in hospital and you will end up having to have it removed. So please be careful. Know what you're doing. Make sure those things are clean as well, because wow, that's going to hurt. My earplugs are inserted. Wait, what was that vacuum thing? So if you insert anything in the urethra, I'm not saying it is a vacuum. Listen, a vagina can be a vacuum. When you have sex in the sea or in water, it doesn't happen to everybody. However, you will have read about people who are vacuum stuck together and need to be taken to hospital in order to be separated. Be careful in water. The vacuum that can be created, and sounds and even arseholes can be like this as well. Once you put something in, you assume that it's just going to stop, but you have to understand how long the anal passage is, how long a urethra can be. And if you get something of this size, and you put it in and you think this is really cool, fuck, how are you going to get it out? Have a ring on the end, have something like you can buy proper sizes. If it doesn't have a flare, don't stick it up there. Yeah, so again, so a flare, what we're talking about is a shape at the end that will stop these things from going in. That's a really good idea. Really is. Say what now? Was that about the vacuum and people in sex? Yeah, so there was a couple, oh God, I can't remember when it was. It was about 5 or 6 years ago. It was in the States. They were having sex in the sea and they came out and people had to wrap them in blankets and an ambulance had to be called and they were taken into A&E or whatever you call it in America. It's called something else, isn't it? So yeah, be careful. We have clamps. There are so many varieties of clamps that can be used on different parts of the body, whether that's the whole breast, whether it's part of the breast, whether it's both of the breasts, whether it's nipples, whether it's labia, whether it's clitoris, whether it's penis, at the top, at the bottom. There are hundreds of forms of clamps. It was something to do with having to go in. I like that, Karis, very carefully. You have to split the vacuum. So actually going to cause more pain before there's less. So actually you can do it, but well, yeah. A&E may also be ED or urgent care in the US. Thank you. Or yeah, emergency room, emergency care. I should know that. I spend at least 3 weeks in the States every year. And been to a few emergency rooms for the odd, you know, dislocated, broken bone and different things, because cheerleading is really dangerous. So be aware of your clamps, be aware of the different types that there are, because there are ones that can pinch, there are homemade ones that you can do, there are ones with serrated edges, there are ones that cut off blood, there are things like you can use. So one of the ways that some animal carers, I use the word carers very lightly, is you can buy these rubber bands, for example, that you put over testicles in order for them to drop off, like you do with skin tags. You can buy them to also go over nipples, but you've got to be very careful. You've got to be able to get them off, and you can't cut them off. So sometimes one of the best ways is use your mouth. We only needed to hear about the flare before her butt plug emergency. Oh, man. Look, even if butt plugs are quite big, even if the flare at the end is quite big, they can still go in. If your butt is used to being stretched in any way, shape or form, it can go in. So again, so you can buy all sorts of things. You can also milk boobs as well. Lots of people are into adult nursing relationships, and you can buy pumps and different things as well. So again, you can buy animal pumps, you can buy human pumps. There are all sorts of things that you can do. Know your stuff. Know your stuff if you're going to do electroplay. So you can do cautery type pens, which might make marks. You can do cautery pens that actually burn. Use those on bulls on the farm, rubber bands. Yes, but people also use them on nipples. They also use them on testicles and cocks and on clitorises. Please be careful. Please be careful. And don't worry if you're going for an MRI. Ooh, it's the same with piercings. Make sure anything you use is medical grade. If you've got something inside, it's not going there. I mean, you're like watching a very bad version of Alien, really, aren't you? All of a sudden, that's what it's like, to be realistic. So please be careful. So electroplay, we can get all sorts of different things. We can go from magic boxes. We can go from TENS type machines. We can go. Are there time limits for clover clamps on nipples in relation to blood circulation? Depends on the human. Start with a few seconds. Build up to a minute, build up to a few minutes. Some people can keep them on for absolutely ages. Other people cannot. Again, we're looking at color. We're looking at whether they're numb. We're looking at heat. We're looking at lots of things. Once somebody's lost the feeling, that's very likely. But I tell you, when the most pain is created with most nipple clamps is when you actually take them off. When the blood flow comes back in, somebody will go, "Oh, you fucker," especially if they then suck and pull it. So again, that can create a lot more pain, and it can be a lot more fun. So again, start slow, build up. There are other people that have managed. So it also depends if you cut off the whole circulation to the nipple or whether you're just on part of it. And again, part of it is pretty good. Repeatedly bridging a circuit through flesh. Look, it depends on a lot of electro toys already have that all sorted out. Will leave permanent marks. Lots of things will leave permanent marks depending on how you are. I played an entire round of bowling wearing nipple clamps. Jesus, fair enough. Look for white nipple flesh. Yeah, there is that as well. So that's really important when something starts to go white and or black. It's extremity of color, basically. That's what you're looking for. So again, please be aware. I just read an article, no clue if true, about someone who bought a butt plug, advertised as silicone, wore it when they went for an MRI, it shot up. It had a metal, I hope that's not true. It had a metal core for weight. So even if not true, it did highlight that you should know your toys. Look, I feel the same about candles and different things. Read what it's made of, please. Ginger juice on clit and nipples is really painful, but some people dig this, including me. I'm assuming it's safe since it's natural organic juice. Thoughts? Ginger root, any of those things can be really fun. What you've got to be aware of when you use anything as far as ginger, like you can buy ginger roots and different things, is that you can't just switch it off. It is a natural thing if you start it. It's the same as if you put clove oil in your mouth and you suck someone's cock or nipples, it will cause numbness, complete numbness in the mouth as well. Funny enough, you say natural organic juice, but there is an interesting enzyme inhibitor in grapefruit juice, which has contraindications when it comes to you taking some tablets. So even though things are organic, they still have a big implication for us. So just read around it. But yes, ginger can be a lot of fun. The same as things like, what am I thinking of? Like clove oil or different things that are all natural. They can be a lot of fun and they have a big implication. So ginger root or anything. I just read this in an article. I'm right, that they do use obnoxiously powerful magnets. I have to have one every year. They're a load of fun. And I have to make sure all my piercings are medical grade, otherwise I'm in trouble. So when you're looking at electroplay, please research the sort of electroplay that you're doing. What about the different skills needed to be a master or a daddy or a top or a dom? Haven't even come to that yet. I'm going as fast as I can. So please be aware around any form of cutting or piercing. Be a fucking expert. If you really want to know something about that, look up Sadistica online. She is so fucking knowledgeable. She's absolutely incredible. She really knows what she's doing. For some reason, I'm now tempted to try the clove oil mouth and the blowjob thing. Please make sure that somebody is okay with that. As well, just start with a little bit. It numbs your teeth. Dentists still use clove oil. So, hey, I'm not recommending that you use it. I'm not going to say anything. Yeah, that is so Sadistica is incredibly knowledgeable and shares her knowledge online. If you're going to do cutting or piercing in any way, talk to her. She'll help you. Never even heard of ginger and clove oil. So ginger is really effective and impactful. So is clove oil. Research them, have a look, make your own decisions. This is not advice. If you are going to do any form of breath play and or waterboarding, people think waterboarding, yes, Sadistica on FetLife. People think waterboarding is the most dangerous thing we can do. That is not true. I'm really sorry to tell you this, but breath play is the most dangerous thing that we can do. Again, I have a huge writing Jerry, on breath play that will tell you.
Fuck's sake. All right.
All right. So it will tell you everything about breath play, including videos, including the dangers and the limits that we can go to and what it means and the different forms of breath play that we can do. Please be aware of somebody else's medical conditions with the tablets that they're on and everything else as well, because all of this influences, plus somebody's age. And when you play with breath, you play with death, 100%. Look, I'm an edge player. I've been knocked out a few times. It can be really good fun. It's not something I would do anymore, especially not after chemo, especially because I'm on high blood pressure tablets and I'm 57 years old. I'm not doing it anymore. I might do, the only type of breath play that I will do is the kiss breath, which is where you hold someone's nose, you put your mouth over their mouth and you swap breath for a few seconds, but you are able to breathe through your nose. So you're building up a little bit of carbon monoxide, so somebody will just get a little bit dizzy. Chokes, I'm out. Not something I do anymore. Please be aware of things like that. Just be aware. Whether you punch, hit or slap, understand that. When you start to use fire in any way, like if you use cupping, you can now buy electric cups. So if you like the idea of cupping, you often put flammable liquids and different things and you put hot, and it's like Chinese cupping, Asian cupping that we use as a form of medical intervention as well. Lots of people use it for play. Understand how you use them, understand what it means. I've also read about somebody who used too much and set someone's back on fire in a bad way, not a good way. So please be careful. We can also buy sprays and cottons. Sorry?
Can you set someone's back on fire in a good way?
Yes, so there are specialized liquids and cotton, different things you can get if you want to do fire play, where woof, it goes up and it looks very spectacular, but it's not actually causing a lot of damage because it's the actual substance that burns, not the skin. So, but if you put certain substances on the skin, clearly the skin will burn. So again, please be careful. Same with bleeding, same with wax. Understand what you're doing and get to know it. If you're looking at hoods and cuffs and spreaders, be aware again of circulation. Spreaders can be great fun. They can also be uncomfortable. They might catch on your bones, but it can be a lot of fun as well. You can pick someone up and move them around by it. Gags really vary. Hoods can be used as gags. If you're going to start playing with any form of breath play with a hood on, you cannot see the person's face. You cannot see their eyes necessarily. Please be aware of the implications of that because it's huge. Please be aware of any form of chemsex. Catch on the bone. So like if you've got your ankle bone, like here, and it starts to catch, it can be incredibly painful at times. So if you've got spreader bars, even though you've got ankle cuffs on, the spreader bars will often move and you've often got another attachment to catch them and they're metal. So just be aware that when something starts to catch on a bone, it starts to hurt. And you can even chip a bone from the outside. So again, be careful about the implications of understanding everything. So chemsex, please be aware that if you have sex and you mix it with chemicals, and you start to go to an extreme, it will absolutely impact your safety and your okayness, and understand what you're doing, from poppers to more extreme chemsex where you're passed out and you're the cum dump of a group. And a lot of people go after that. Okay. When we talk about the differences in responsibility around DOMs and subs, everything I've spoken about all the way through is everybody's responsibility in every single way. We all have to be aware, and we all have to have a look at that. When we have a look at the difference between what's needed to be a master or a daddy or a top or a bottom, that's going to be related to your definition of what that means. It might mean that if you are a daddy, that you are very caring, you look after your baby girl, baby boy, baby person, kitten, cat, whatever. Doesn't matter what they are, who they are. Daddy tends to have a different form of responsibility with it, with a different level of care. But you'll find that some tops and some DOMs do exactly the same as some daddies do. But you might find that maybe a daddy isn't as sadistic, but he might be, or she might be, or they might be. Again, daddy isn't gender specific, it's a title, that they might be very caring, but they might be a right cunt sometimes as well, depending on who they are and how that works. They might enjoy creating pain. When you take on a position of responsibility, you have to be responsible for yourself, accountable for yourself, and also work out that you are not doing any harm. I do not think safeguarding doesn't come into this, because you can't go with safe, sane, and consensual. A lot of what we do isn't safe and it isn't sane. However, what you need to be aware of is your responsibility. So we need discussions between us of what does the word daddy, top, dom mean to each of us, and what are the criteria we want to fulfill in order to be that human being. I would quite like to look after you. I would quite like to look at what you eat. I would like to maybe have some control over that. That's very different to somebody else to say, fuck off, you're not doing that. Okay, well, I would quite like to make sure that you're always safe. Phone me when you're home. Always put your, I like personally putting my, I like someone checking me up on my phone, seeing where I am. A lot of people go, that's too controlling. So again, it's all about what you like and what that means. Alpha, not quite sure what alpha means, but if you naturally want to be in charge, yeah, send a journey plan. But I like WhatsApp, send my location so you can see exactly where I am and what that looks like. But some other might say that's not okay. I like cameras in my bedroom. This is absolutely true. So if I'm with someone, they have an option if they want to, got a bit red, sorry, I do go a bit red sometimes, of having, they can watch me, because they can log in and they can watch me sleep, watch me wank when they're not with me, or tell me to do something or wake me up or whatever. So we all like different things. So there's a difference between control. There's a difference between nurture. Thank you, I do. But I'm permanently in the menopause, I'm afraid. I will be for 8 years in total because of the anti-estrogen drugs that I take. So I take estrogen inhibitors, but thank you. That's very kind of you. So again, actually, I didn't cover adult babies and nappies. Again, completely different thing in a different way. Look it up and make sure you know what you're doing. Coming back to our responsibility and control. So we can do things like do orgasm control, but that can actually really impact someone. We can link someone's orgasm to us. That can really impact someone. We can micro control their life, ask permission to go to the toilet. How practical is that if then somebody is in America, like I've just been, and you're on a different time? I'm not going to hold my piss for the next 23 hours. And I'm certainly not peeing myself in front of a group of kids because you couldn't tell me that I can go to the loo. Be responsible, be accountable, be aware. Also be aware of how the power dynamic for a lot of us sometimes can mean that this person is really appreciated as a god, the all provider, wonderful. And this person is also, oh my God, I've never met anyone like you. You're so amazing. You do all these things for me. And it creates a connection. It is a fallacy to say that our relationships are any more intense than a vanilla relationship. Let's get off that page, please. When you watch a couple that have been together for 20 years and one of them dies and the other one doesn't even know how to use a fucking washing machine and they depended on each other and they're broken, don't tell me that vanilla relationships aren't just as intense. We put intensity into some of our relationships because we want to. So that responsibility, the responsibilities is to be caring as a dominant. The responsibility is to be accountable. The responsibility really varies. But you've got to decide between you as to what responsibilities they are. What will it look like? It's really important for you both to define it. What do I look for in a daddy? What do I look for in a sub? What do I look for in a slave? What do I look for in a top? There are some power exchange relationships or authority transference relationships that will never include love or affection. That wouldn't work for me. I like love and affection. There are some that might say, I will be with who I want. Some relationships have a one penis policy or a one vagina policy. Is that what you want? Is that what you consent to? What does that look like? But all the things I've spoken about all the way through are about our responsibilities. I talk about this a lot. I really believe in writing a Haynes manual, your own manual, your owner's manual about how you are, what works for you, how that is. And I also believe in every position doing it and that you can discuss it, talk about it. I really believe in having regular meetings. It doesn't matter whether they're like radar type meetings for poly. Basically what they are is there a catch up, try and do them at least weekly. How are we doing? Do them out of your power exchange or your authority transference or who you are. Is our communication okay? Is there anything going wrong? Is there anything you want from me? What would that look like? What do we need for each other? I want a bit more of this. Can you do this for me? Can we do this? What you'll find is a lot of power exchange or authority transference and kinky relationships tend to become vanilla in an average of 2 years. I would love to know why. There isn't any research on it, but I think it's really connected to that whole thing of new relationship energy. Again, please be aware of new relationship energy. It can be wonderful and lovely. It can also be really damaging to both parties or 3 parties or 4 parties. We just talk about compassion and love for it, but actually it can be really damaging. We can discard what is. And again, I've got a writing on that. It's my fucking answer for everything. I've got a writing on that. I've got a writing on that. Oh, thanks. So that write-up, that talks about this Haynes manual, where we really share who we are and what it looks like and what it means, because that can be really good for us. Please be aware that people have issues at different times in their lives. Those issues can be sexual functioning. They can be affectionate. They can be trauma. They can be different things. We all have different responsibilities, but I think the greatest responsibility we have is care for the other human being. At the end of the day, that's the most important thing. What would it look like for us to be kind, to look after another human being? And the more times I do things, the less stimulating I find them. There is some interesting research. I'm not that keen on this piece of research, but it is a piece of research that states that on average, cis-born women want continuity and reliability, and cis-born men want difference and change and different forms of stimulation. So when we think about heterosexual relationship, that could become quite complex if this is all, it's only a small piece of research. Research is only as good as it is, you know? But we can get burned out. We can do something all the time. There's a lot of pressure on it, but also predictability can ruin things. If you're about to have sex or play and someone grabs your left boob, rolls you over and fucks you for 2 minutes, and you can predict every part of it, that's not necessarily good for us either. However, reliability is really important. If as a top, you promise or say something, please do it. See it through. If you can't, fuck me, that should be rare. If as a sub, you promise something, I'm absolutely going to get that done. I promise tonight. See it through. Reliability and consistency are really important in power exchange or authority transference. Can I trust you? Will you do this? Will it be okay? And we need to spice things up. Also, I'm a really big believer in planning play and planning sex. Why? Really enjoy this, Deb. Sorry, I'll be signing off. It's pretty late in India, but thanks a ton for this very educative session. Oh, thank you very much. It's very kind of you. I appreciate that. Sleep well if it's really late. So I'm a really big believer in planning play. And I think it's one of those skills that we need in order to do this. So why do I say that? You might be brilliant with a flogger. You might have learned how to use it. You might have done all sorts of different things and had a wonderful time. And blimey, can you play with those things? Like you're literally like poi and you've got things going, you've got fire going everywhere and you're this wonderful person. If you never do it to the person that you're with, it's not going to work. When you dated somebody, you planned sex, you planned play. Why? You met them on Thursday, you met them on Saturday, you had play, you had sex. As soon as we start to move in with someone, we don't plan it anymore. We go, oh, we're in bed. Should we do it now? I mean, that's pretty shit. It doesn't always work well. Fucking plan it. Have a nice date. Do something without sex, without play. Have a date, connect, but also planning sex and planning play. Get ready for it. Like if you think about when you dated, you shaved or didn't shave, you put your besties on, you put your best undies on maybe, or you didn't, you know, whatever. If you knew that someone's going to rip them off or say, I want them in the restaurant, don't put your best ones on because you often don't get them back. And make sure you've got 30 pairs of those. So, you know, you've got to be careful about these sort of things, haven't you? Those undies are fucking expensive. So plan stuff. And we're both going to get ready. We're going to wash each other off in the shower, or 3 of us or 4 of us. I don't care how many, it's nothing. So you can plan things as well, not with predictability though, but it's with consistency. It's really important as well. Rope says, I know myself, if I ask to do something, I need to do it then and there, else I will forget, or at least write it on my to-do list. I know this, so I know what I need to do to manage it. Yeah, for sure. We all have different reasons as to why we like and do things. And Lady Loki said, one shouldn't do something all the time, whether it's a hobby, work or sex. We could get burnt out. And we just don't like pure predictability. There's a couple of really good books and TED Talks, things like The Secret to Desire in a Long-Term Relationship. There's quite a few things that you can look at and look up, done by lots of different therapists and different people. This one particularly, when we talk about desire in a long-term relationship, we want somebody to be reliable, stable and wonderful, but we also want them to be exciting and different and alternative. It's really hard to do that if you're living together and you've just done the washing up and a wash needs hanging and something else needs sorting. Those things didn't impact you when you were dating. So you really have to look at those things and make sure that you plan them and make sure that you put them in a different way. Right. We're going up at 7:30 tonight. Yeah, but what about the dogs? We can come down at 10 and sort the dogs out then. The dogs are fine. Okay. What about the kids? That's a different story, isn't it? If you've got kids, or what about if my mum lives next door? What if she pops in? Think about these things. Think about making sure people don't pop in. Think about locking doors. Think about making sure that you are having fun and you are booking in. It's one of the most basic skills that we need as a human being. Once we've agreed everything that we do psychologically, these are daddy's rules. This is what he needs to do. These are mummy's rules. It's what she needs to do. These are daddy's rules. It's what she needs to do. These are daddy's what they need to do. Again, gender is irrelevant. This is the top's rules. This is the top's guides. Create your own guides between you about what you agree are your responsibilities and your accountabilities. It really matters. Anyone want to say anything in the last 4 minutes or ask a question about any of this at all? Over to you. If you've got a question about any of this, about something that I've missed or something that you feel hasn't been covered in any of this, we've still got 4 or 5 minutes. So I will happily answer anything that you've got. And this video will go up on FetLife and it will eventually go up on YouTube. I'll send it over to Cosmic if it hasn't worked. Never underestimate the value of a maid. Bear in mind, 1 hour of chores is worth your hourly wage. Depends on what your hourly wage is. I think, yes, I don't disagree with you, but it depends on what you earn. If you earn 9 quid an hour or 10 quid an hour and your maid costs you 14 or 15 quid an hour, you're fucked. So actually, not everyone can do that all the time. However, there is a real value in making sure you get things done at different times in certain ways, or you do get help so these jobs get done. Can I just say, if you're a top and you think it's your slave's responsibility to clean, wash, cook, iron, to give you sex and have a full-time job and or look after children, fuck you. I'm sorry, that's not going to work. You live on a different planet. If you share responsibilities and share jobs, you can have amazing time together that is sexual and playful and wonderful. If you just get one person to do something, it's not the same. I feel like I want to know more about the paddle cane impact. I don't know what, but I feel there might be something I should know. Different canes and different paddles come with different weights. They come with different impact. Some have stuff that will cut. Some have stuff that will just have a deep thud. Some are really thick, some sting. They all do different things. My best bit of advice when you're buying something is buy it from an artisan. Don't buy it from a store, and speak to the person who's making it. Talk about the sort of thing you want from it. So like a lot of my stuff I get made from people like Daisy and different people like Daisy's Floggers, because she'll make something to my design and my colors and the things that I really love and like. So she'll make me something in orange, you know, clearly sort of real orange thing at the moment. Hello, ADHD, or different things. I'm thinking what to look for to avoid permanent damage, how to be aware of that while close or to under subspace. If you are in subspace or you are in a space that means you are not present, you cannot avoid the damage. The person who's hitting you is the one who's going to avoid the damage. Don't always hit in the same places. I've worked with people, I've worked with a couple of people, actually, this isn't just one person, where they've had to stop caning for nearly up to a year because the person was just opening up even if they were hit. So you have to look at skin and what it can take. You can try covering it, you can try taping it up, and you can try different places. You need to give a rest to certain areas if you're overdoing it, especially depending on the sort of instrument that you're using, I would say. I wish all men I try to mesh with educated themselves. I wish all humans tried to educate themselves. I do think responsibility on the scene and safety is down to us individually to be as educated as we can be, so that we make informed choices as much as we can, and we can say no to people because we understand the implication of doing that. This was awesome. Thank you. I would have got to read now that I discovered you. Oh, thank you very much. Well, here again in 2 weeks. Thanks, Lady Loki and others. If you're anywhere near London, come to LAM and talk to the traders. Most of them really know their stuff. I really agree with that. And I run a workshop there for 90 minutes live most months. How do you think disassociation plays into being in subspace? I think there are many forms psychologically of disassociation. Disassociation is a generalized heading for different ways that we disconnect and do different things. Subspace isn't proven as a proper medical space as of yet. There's not enough research into it, and there won't be. So if a person is traumatized, they could potentially disassociate, but we could also argue that could be subspace. Depends. I think one comes from trauma, one comes from pleasure, potentially, but that hasn't been researched. That's my opinion. Not a possibility. Loki is in Norway. Thanks, Deb and Jerry, as always. Thank you very much. Thank you again. Awesome as always. I dragged her here. Fair. But thank you very much. Okay, so thank you all. Look, I don't charge for these. If you want to donate anything to me, you can. I have a coffee under KOFI and under the Kink Shrink. So you can if you want to, and if you don't, I really don't give a shit. Come along, spread the word. Let's spread as much good information as we can. That's what I really believe in. And I tell you whether something is different, whether it's my opinion, whether it's been researched, or whether it's fact. That's really important. So thank you all very much for coming. I love it when you say you don't really give a shit. I don't. In the nicest of ways, I'm here offering my time because I think it's really important. I spoke to my supervisor this morning who runs Pink Therapy, and he said something really lovely to me. He said, as far as experts go in kink and alternative sexualities and different things, there are 2 or 3 in the UK that I would go to. You are one of them. That was a really nice thing for him to say. Like, that's a huge compliment to me. Dr. Laurie Beth Bisbee was another one, and Silver was another one. So that's a really nice thing to hear. And do I think I'm the best? Do I know everything? Absolutely not. Do I think I'm an expert? Fuck me, I'm as close as some people can be. Again, don't also think that's my patron. Thank you very much as well. It's very sweet of you. So I think, it's really important to share if you have knowledge, and that's why I do things for free. I'm going to Portsmouth for free soon. I try and do as many workshops as I can. So thank you all very much. Thank you for your time. We now do the wanker wave to say goodbye to everyone. I'm not a Master Yoda, and well, probably am. I'm small and green. Oh, no, not quite large and orange. Different. See you later. Bye, everyone. Thank you. Take care. Bye.